Welcome. Welcome everyone today. Sorry for the hiccups in the beginning, but we're learning. Today, we have two great speakers in our agenda. Well, I'll begin to do the introductions today. Nothing too much for me to add to the conversation, but we'll be talking about how we can build conversational UI and also kind of how to use Azure Intelligence Services. And after that, we'll have a presentation about using Power Apps and how that could diversify and kind of solve some issues in your application, even if you're doing custom development like I am. So that's today's agenda and speakers. As we don't have the Q&A button enabled today, and I don't seem to have a possibility to kind of help you ask questions, then I would invite everyone to join Discord, and let's use it as the kind of main place where we ask questions today, and I'll try to pick them up for the conversation for the speakers. So yeah, here's the link. I'll leave it on the screen for a little longer, so everyone who wants to kind of participate there can still join. And I think this link is also posted on our meetup page, so you could also get it from there and join the Discord that way. Okay. So one more thing before we start on the meetup, I want to mention that we have started our Let's Build program. We had the intro session last week, and next week we are going to have kind of the first live coding session already focusing on front-end development. Anyone willing can still kind of verbally jump the train and join us. So for that, you can also reach me on Discord and check how to apply. And in addition, we have now event posted on Meetup, so you can subscribe to that as well if you want to join. But that's all for the intro, and I'll give my word to our first speaker. Alexander.
Hello, give me a second, I will share my screen. Okay, now you should see my screen. Please confirm.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. First of all, I would like to thank you for invitation. It's a big pleasure to talking about Microsoft AI intelligence services and building conversational AI solutions based on Azure platform. So my name is Alexander, or simply Alex. I'm located in Kyiv, Ukraine. So I'm the CEO at DevRain. It's a software development company, and also I hold several statuses from Microsoft, like Microsoft Regional Director, Microsoft Artificial Intelligence Most Valuable Professional, and Microsoft Certified Trainer. So today I will be talking about intelligence services, about building the chatbots, and some kind of real experience of what to use, what tools to use, and how to build not just a regular chatbot, but the chatbot with intelligence. So this is our agenda. We will start with some designing conversation flows in case of UI and the algorithm of how these flows should work. And then we talked a little bit about Azure Cognitive Services, Q&A Maker, language understanding. A few slides will be about Azure Machine Learning and how you can use it for the chatbot development. Then more about Microsoft Bot Framework and Bot Framework Composer. So this is the agenda. I plan to have several slides and switch to demos and to showcase the services and how to use the services in real life. Okay, so first of all, I would like to show this picture regarding the Microsoft AI platform, because when we are talking about building conversational AI solutions, it's just a small part of overall platform. And Microsoft provides a big range of tools and services for the people who are familiar with data science, who are not very deep dived into these services, and the people who just understand how machine learning works, and but don't want to spend a lot of time for building models. So in this case, you can use cognitive services, which is the pre-trained set of models. And of course, if you would like to build some intelligence over the data, you have a wide range of AI infrastructure, AI on data, AI in compute, different deep learning frameworks, and development tools, starting with Azure Machine Learning Studio and Visual Studio Code, etc., etc. So today I will be talking about mostly the conversational AI and some cognitive services in Azure Machine Learning. So the top part of this slide, but of course it does not. But of course you can use any service, even external to Microsoft ecosystem. So the primary tool that used for building a chatbot is a Microsoft Bot Framework. I started using the bot framework for, I don't know, from the preview version. And a few years ago, it was just a simple service allowing you to build simple chatbots. But now it's I could say this is the huge tool set. It's not just the framework, it's a number of tool set and services and third-party tools allowing you to build a chatbot of any complexity. And so for now, you can build any combinations of chatbots. You can build a Microsoft Teams chatbots. You can build a chatbot that could be used for wide range of messengers. I don't know, Twitter, Telegram, Facebook Messenger, and other. And this could be done with the Azure bot service and the channels that's enabled by default. So, for example, when you create your bot service, you can host it on an Azure web service, which is Azure bot service, and very easily, without any development, you can add a lot of channels. I think it's about 10 channels, starting with Cortana, Direct Line, Microsoft Teams, and external one, Alexa, Facebook, GroupMe, Skype, and other services. Also, if you would like to add the support for a channel which is not supported by Microsoft from the ground, you can use the community connectors which are available on a GitHub. So if you would like to use, for example, for Viber or for WhatsApp or other services, you could find these connectors on a GitHub pages. And I would say that all these tools, except Azure Bot Service, all this bot framework, all these connectors are open source, so you can use it freely. So the first thing I would like to talk is designing of how your messages will look like. Of course, you can use a very straightforward UI, which is the message or an image or something like this. And bot framework allows you to use some pre-built set of adaptive cards like hero card or video card. But if you don't like these adaptive cards, you could create your own cards. Of course, these cards could be supported by one set of messengers, but not supported by another one. For example, Telegram will not support your adaptive cards. So for this service, for this messenger, you will need to create your own UI. But for example, if you are building Microsoft Teams, that means that you could use the full range of adaptive cards. So let's quickly look how it looks like. Okay, so you can start from adaptive cards.io, and here there is some samples where you could start with. So here you can find that the activity is just the JSON, which contains some kind of key values and information about what type of UI component you would like to see. So here the preview, how it will look like. So if I will try myself, so I will have a designer which allows me to create different kind of adaptive cards, and it could be it really could be different types. It could be flights Italy. It could be just a hero card with image and text and some buttons. It could be some specific UI elements, but at the end you will have some JSON that you could use within your chatbot. So the next thing is designing conversation flows. And this is something which is not, I think, a lot of people don't know about this opportunity, which is quite sad because I think it's a very cool prototyping tool. And it calls the chat down, and this is the chat format. Chat format is just the regular markdown text file, allowing you to prototype your conversation flows. So for example, before you start developing your chatbot, you would like to understand, so what will be the greeting, so what will be the flow, so what will be the branches, etc., etc. And you can use just the markdown because chat files is just a markdown. And of course, you can use also adaptive cards. So for example, hero card or thumbnail card. That's why I started from adaptive card. And this is just the prototyping of how it will looks like. So okay, now we have some kind of flow. Let me show you how it will look like. Just a second. Okay, so here you can find that this is the user, this is the bot, and we say, okay, book a table. Bot would like to answer with the adaptive card. So you can see this as location JSON adaptive card. You can also use some kind of typing delay to say that, okay, this will be the long period, the long query. So, okay, we need to send some typing activity, so the user should not go away. And this is just a chat file markdown, which is not, so that could be a starting point to start a conversation. But next thing, you would like to see how it will looks like on the real chat. So for these purposes, we could use the bot framework emulator, which is the universal tool for testing and building chatbots with Microsoft Bot Framework. It's also open source product, and here you can open transcript and select this chat file. For example, book table happy pass. Okay, and all these markdown will be transformed into the real chatbot conversation. Also, you can see that it's used by adaptive card. You can see, if you will click on this message, you will see what's the JSON behind this activity. So you can see all the information needed to test and to fix some issues, if any. Also, there is another example. It's called adaptive card example. And for example, here you can find several JSON files which are the adaptive card. And here, let me show. And here you can see this prototyping file. So, okay, this is the attachment carousel, this is the attachment images, this is the adaptive card, etc., etc. So here you can see all this information and see how it will looks like. So for me, it's very useful because you can start with prototyping and add it to the GitHub or other Git client, so you can work with like with any other textile file. So that's quite useful. Let's move forward. And the next topic is a cognitive services API. If you are not 100% data scientist, but you still want to use some intelligence, not only in a chatbot actually, but just in your piece of software, you can use the predefined, the pre-built set of cognitive services. It's also started with some small set of services with some basic one, but now there are a lot of different services behind that. It has speech services, language services, vision, search, knowledge, and here you can see a different services which is a part of these categories. The first thing is a translator, and this is I think it's very common used service, but still it's very important because sometimes if you would like to use some extended scenarios, it's not supported by local languages. So for example, Ukrainian language is not supported by most of cognitive services, but still we can use some kind of translator, and user can ask and type some questions in local language. We could translate it to the English and then use the full possibilities of English language. So this is the one scenario. Also, we could detect, for example, also the good example for Ukraine, because the people speak different languages in Ukraine, Russian and Ukrainian, and we need, in most of the cases, detect what the language is used right now, and then switch to another context, to switch to another reply in different language, or at least understand to what knowledge base to make a request. I will show you this a little bit later. So the second thing is a text analytics. This is also one of, I think, is of main cognitive services, because we use textual information in most of the cases. And idea is we can detect the sentiment, we can detect key phrases, name it entities, and these scenarios could be also different. For example, if you see that user very angry and you see that sentiment is negative, so maybe you need to change somehow your conversation flow, or maybe ask, or maybe make a handoff to the real person that could work with this specific user. So that would be one option. If you have some key phrases and name it entity, for example, if you build some knowledge chatbots and you have name it entity, for example, London, or I don't know, Seattle, you could clearly understand that this is the Seattle, this is the city of USA. You could find, I don't know, the persons who are living in Seattle, or if you detect the name entity Microsoft, you can find who is the CEO of Microsoft, etc., etc. So you can use this knowledge graphs and just from a textual information. The next service, which is also you can use in different software, but it's commonly used with Microsoft Bot Framework, it's a Q&A maker. And Q&A maker, as it states from the name, it allows you to make questions and answer solutions. So I think it's one of the most requested features for all businesses, because everybody has some kind of knowledge bases and like to have a quick access to this information. It could be how to connect to Jira, or how to get information about the vacation. So all these kind of questions could be added as a Q&A maker solution and could be used for preliminary answering the questions. So let me switch again to the demo. Okay, so this is the Q&A Maker AI service. So before we could start to adding our knowledge bases, we need to have a registered resource on a Microsoft Azure. So it's just very easy. I will not spend time on that. You just go to the Azure portal and say, okay, I would like to add a Q&A service. You select all the needed configuration. And after that, you will be able to create a knowledge base. So let me refresh the page to ensure everything is okay. Okay, so now system detects my Azure Directory ID. I will select the subscription. I will select the Azure Q&A service that will be used. This is the English language. I will set dummy name. Then you can populate your knowledge base from the files, from the external files, from URLs, or just upload your files to this system. So if you would like to parse information from the external sources, you need to add URLs. You can make different URLs, but if you will add different URLs, you need to ensure that you select more than 3 tier. For that reason that you just have a free indexes per free Q&A maker. Also, you have options is a chat. That's the ability. It's something that could be said as a small talk. So in most of the cases, people, users, they would like to say something like a human, to talk to chatbots like to human, and say, hello, how are you? Are you a chatbot? Are you a bot, etc., etc. So for this case, we need this chit chat. It's not working for all languages, but it supports something like 6 or 7 languages. So here you can select what the personality will be of this chatbot. It will be professional, it will be friendly, it will be enthusiastic. Okay, let's select professional and then create knowledge base. So as you can see here, I did not select any URL or file, which is also a valid option because I could add my question and answers later when my knowledge base will be created. So here you will see all this. You can see here source Q&A chit chat professional TSV. So here you can already manage, edit, add your own phrases. But here you can add a new Q&A pair and ask some questions. I know how to connect to Azure DevOps. You can add some alternative phrasing because different people could ask different in different way. I want to connect to DevOps, or I have a problem with connecting to DevOps. Okay, so this is my question, and this is will be answer. Sorry. So here I would say, okay, here is the instruction how to connect to DevOps. Okay, quite simple. Q&A Maker also allows you to add some follow-up prompts. So why it's needed? Because sometimes if you have a different branches or you have different options to answer, sometimes you need to say, okay, I understand your intent, but I need more details. Please answer this question to understand what exactly are you looking for. Okay, so you can add different types of questions and different alternative phrasing. You could add one answer and maybe some other follow-ups. and then I need to save and train my model. It will take something like 30 seconds or 1 minute, so depends of the size of your knowledge base. It was rather quickly. And here you have this test window where you can test your Q&A. Okay, so I said a hi, and you say the hello, and hello is just because we have a professional personality. So if I will use something like VT or enthusiastic, it will another answer. Are you a bot? I'm digital, in other words, I'm not human. So here you see some answers. You can change it from this knowledge base. If I said DevOps, I will get my answer. I did not use the exact wording to ask these questions. I just say DevOps, and the model detects that my answer is the best for this case. There is also an option to if you understand that, okay, this answer is not perfect or it's incorrect, you can retrain your model and just republish your model, and this model will immediately start answering different answer. So I need to publish. Okay, so at the end you can see that we can use this Q&A endpoint as a REST API endpoint. So just the host, post authorization endpoint, content type, application, JSON, and my questions. So as an answer, you will receive one or several answers that are also suitable for this question. So that's it. We also could add some kind of settings. We could yes, you can add or delete a chit chat data set. You can add additional knowledge bases. You can export or import through the TSV format or Excel format, etc., etc. So it's, for my opinion, it's quite easy and quite understandable, and the service. So me personally, we use a Q&A maker very often because, as I said, it's an essential part of any chatbots to answer the common questions, and Q&A maker is a good tool to start with. So the next, let's move forward. And another important service, it's called language understanding. Previously, it's called LUIS, language understanding intelligent service, but now Microsoft changed it to the language understanding. And the primary idea of this service is to understand the intent of the sentence or the text that's sent by user and entity with entity types. For example, it could be intent to book a flight, entity could be London, and type a destination. So having some kind of model, data model required to book a ticket flight, we could build a chatbot that will understand our text with non-formal text. So also I will show how it's working. Okay, I have another window, which is the LUIS AI. And here also you can see that I need to select the Azure subscription, and also I need to select the authoring resource. So LUIS used two resources, the authoring resource and the prediction resource. And the main idea is to understand who has the access to this authoring resource, and the prediction is responsible actually for getting the questions and getting the answer back. So I would create a new app. I will select my prediction resource, which is also required. Okay. Here you can find two main menu items, which is intents and entities. Also, inside this menu item, you can find a create and add a pre-built domain intent. So let's start from a pre-built domain intent. So here you have some kind of pre-trained intents. So Microsoft provides you some big list of pre-trained domain models, and here you can see that it could be calendar, accept, event entry, calendar, cancel, then I don't know, calendar, reject. So if you are building some to-do app or some calendar app, okay, you can start with the pre-built models right here. So it's quite a big list. Okay, it's restaurant reservation, places, rate place, etc., etc. But we would like to create our intent. I will say book flight. So now I have two intents. One is none, which is needed if the sentence or text we send is not suitable for this intent. It's just none. I can add multiple intents for that. And the next step is to add a pre-built entities. So you also could see pre-built domain entries and pre-built entity. For example, it could be age, it could be email, geography, money, some number, person name, phone number, I don't know. So you can select, so this is the standard entities which could be suitable for any type of language model. Okay, so I select, and my entities with the pre-built type are added to my environment. The next, I could create our entity. For example, it could be regex. It's just simple. You just provide the regex string to extract data from the texts. It can be list. For example, if it's an airport, we could or let's say it could be ticket class. And here I would say it could be economy. I can add the synonyms, and for example, business. I would say, okay, business class, economy class. Okay, so that's it. So I create a new entity with the type of list. And also I can create a machine learned entity, which is, I think, more important. For example, ticket order. Okay. I would like to add some structure and would say some number of passengers, time, okay, from and to. Okay, so now I completed with my language understanding model. So this is something that I would like to be able to determine. The first one, if it's a none or book flight intent, and if it's a book flight intent, I would like to extract these entities with a certain type. So now I need to go to my intent and add some utterances. For example, please book me a flight London to Kiev for tomorrow. 2 persons, business class, not more than $50 per person. Okay, so now you can see that my pre-built models, pre-built entities, they already start working. So London is a geography, Kiev is geography. Tomorrow, for some reason, was not defined. Okay, maybe okay, because I did not say. Sorry, I will add daytime. Done. Okay, I go back. And now I see that my tomorrow is also identified as a daytime v2. Then I would like to say that this is ticket order and this is number of passengers. This is the business. So business, you can see that this is the ticket class. This is the money. So now I have some kind of labeling my utterances, and now I can see. Now I need to add more utterances to have different variations of how people could order this book flight. And the general recommendation is to have something like at least 30, 50 utterances per intent. But also if you have a big number of intents and entities, so once you have more scenarios and more textual information with a properly labeled data, you will be able to build a very precise model. The same here, you can train your model. Of course, it will be not precise right now because we have just the one utterance. It will be not very good, maybe a bad model, but still I would like to order okay, let's to book a flight from Kiev to London for 2 persons. Okay, that's it. So I will send, and here you can see the inspector, and here you can see the top scoring intent is a book flight. It still has not a big confidence, just a 67%, which is quite big for only one utterance. Then you can see that there is no ML entities predictions, and you can see that other entities is Kiev and London. Unfortunately, it doesn't recognize the number of person. I don't have any business class. So, so as I said, the model is not very precise, but still is suitable to identify your book flight intent. So what you need to do next is just to increase the number of utterances, make this to make this label it. And what I could say about Lewis evolution is, for example, London and Kiev was not identifiable previously. But you can see that geography v2 is quite smart, so you don't need to create a list with airports or maybe cities, because this is something that Lewis can manage on your behalf. Also, one more thing about the Lewis is that the text analytics service now also have a healthcare pre-built model, and you can use it to extract some healthcare information from a text. So this is something like a domain-based extraction service. And if you are building some healthcare services, it will be quite helpful. Okay, let's move forward. And the next category of services is search. It works with Bing, and there are Bing entity search, image search, spell check, video search. So if you would like to work with a public Bing indexes, so you can use these search services. If you would like to use some search services on your data, not just the public data, but on your data, you need to use the Azure Cognitive Search service. It's out of agenda of today's call, but Azure Cognitive Search allows you to index your own data and then use also cognitive services on top of that. So then you also could have some REST API that could be integrated into your chatbot or some other piece of software. The next is speech services. And there are a few services here. It's speech translation, it's text-to-speech, it's speech-to-text, speaker recognition. But what could be interesting here in case of chatbot development, that you can easily add a speech support to your bot. So, for example, you can add ability for user to enter information not in textual format, but just over voice. And also you can use something like text-to-speech, for example, to send information to user also in speech format, in voice format. For example, if you are building Alexa chatbots, so you will not have some textual information. You will always work with some voice, and these services allows you to achieve this goal. The next is a computer vision services, which is not used by bot framework directly, but still you can add this functionality to analyze, for example, images, or if user will send you some image, you can make image recognition, text extraction, some landmark detection, celebrities detection, logos detection, and other things. It's also a predefined set of services. So here is the example. So if you will send Satya Nadella, it will come back and say, okay, this is the Satya Nadella with the confidence of 99%, which is definitely Satya Nadella. If you don't have, okay, another service is a face recognition, which is also a part of computer vision. It's a face detection, face verification, some emotion recognition. It's also could be suitable for, I don't know, for some scenarios when you would like to understand the mimics, the sentiment, maybe some other things. So you can use the face detection. If you have some kind of scenarios which is not part of computer vision services, so you have to build your own model to recognize people or something like this, you can use the custom vision service. So most of the cognitive services, they have a custom implementation of this service, and custom vision allows you to prepare your your images, prepare your labels, to tag it, to label this data, and make this model working on your data. So also there is ability to export this model to iOS, to Windows, and sorry. And for example, you can use this model with your real, how to say, live recordings and detect some people or some kind of other objects. So this is also possible. One more service which is quite impressive and I very like it. It's a form recognizer, and form recognizer, it's a set of predefined and pre-trained models, and also ability to create your own models, and which is very excited that you need to just have five images or 5 PDFs, and that's enough to start extracting needed information from the forms and documents. So you can so some predefined services could extract information from ID cards, from receipts, and if you would like to build your own model, okay, you just need a few images, just label this data and quick train, and you will have this custom model. So you can use it also, for example, for receipts processing or some other kind of scenarios. One more service is a content moderator, And it also could be used in different scenarios. For chatbots, it could be used to, for example, to identify offensive language or unwanted images. Also, it could define the personal identifiable information, PII. For example, it could return you the anonymized text from if user sends some information containing a personal information, you could anonymize this data and store in your data just instead of email, you can just have some asterisk or something like this. So this is something that used by content moderator and chatbot. If you have a support chatbot, you need to understand if your users use some offensive or language with some sexual content. So it's something that could be determined with a content moderator. One more service. I will not spend a lot of time on it, but still, this is the Azure Machine Learning. This is the primary tool right now for Microsoft to create machine learning models. So if you're a data engineer, if you're a data scientist, you could start with the Azure Machine Learning very quickly because you have a free option. So here you can find on near the author menu, you can have an automated ML designer and notebooks. Which is very exciting because it's designed for different level of data science knowledge. For example, automated ML does not require you to have a deep knowledge of data science. It just say, okay, what machine learning problem you would like to solve? It's the classification, it's the multi-label classification, it's the regression or some other model. Then you just need to put a file or your data set and say, okay, I would like to have a quick search of the best model, not more than 2 hours of working of the Azure Machine Learning pipeline. And I would like to have a model that will provide me the best accuracy for this model. And that's it. So you just click, next. You just define the settings of your automated ML run, and everything else could be done by automated ML pipeline. So if you would like to use no-code or low-code and you want to build your custom machine learning pipelines, you can use a designer. And designer is something which is the set of blocks with the manipulation with data, with some machine learning components, etc., etc. And at the end, you will have something like designed flow, machine learning flow. At the end, you can even compare different models with this designer. And if you are a data scientist or developer, and you still love Python as Python is your primary environment for making data science, you can use the Azure Machine Learning notebooks, which is just a regular Jupyter notebooks, but with the extension of the Azure Machine Learning Python SDK, which could help you to build your models and interact with Azure Machine Learning workspace. So why it's needed? Why we just not to use the Jupyter notebook? It could be an option, but if you would like to manage all runs to understand what data was used to train this specific model, if you would like to see the transparency of machine learning models, and you have all the logs and analytics, why you have these models, why this model fails or working good, so that's something that Azure Machine Learning can do for you. And at the end, when you create your model, you can register it in your workplace, so you can have multiple models which could be transformed as an endpoint, which will be just a REST API, or you can make your model as a container, as a Kubernetes container. And for example, we use the Azure function, and Azure Funder provide us the interface to our model, and that was the case for one of our projects. Also, you can select different computes, different data sources, and also there is the labeler tool inside the Azure Machine Learning service, which allows you to create your data sets from your raw data. It's more about the images. So the difference between custom vision service and labeling solution. Custom vision, you just say, okay, this is the label 1, this is the label 2, please train me the model. So here you can make this data set, so you can create it and label your data. Okay, so this is the designer. So yes, you can have different blocks: apply SQL transformation, clean missing data, convert to CSV, and all other things. So you can make some ETL, make different pipelines, and all in Azure Machine Learning workplace. And the question is, okay, so I'm talking about all these intelligent services, but okay, where is our chatbot? So how we would use all the services? And here we have several options how to do that. The first option is just the Microsoft Bot Framework SDK, which is available for different languages, and you can start building chatbot with C# or Node.js. And SDK allows you to manage all your pipelines, to question answers, to make linear or non-linear flows. And that was the primary approach. Sorry. That was the primary approach for years. So we built chatbots with the code. I could not say that's okay. We still, in most of the cases, we will use the chatbot code, because if you're using a C#, okay, it's straightforward. It's very easy to start. But for example, if you would like to make a very different UI with different drop downs, with images, with all this stuff, you can use the React control, and you can totally change how your chatbot looks like. So okay, for some projects we use just a C# SDK. For some we use the React control, and the chatbot is totally different, that you can see on examples. So you can have all control of how your chatbot will looks like, and what technology you will use. You can use different connections through the direct line, and for example have a, I don't know, Xamarin app on your iOS Android application. You can have it as a component on your website. You can have it like a Microsoft Teams chatbot. So you have a full ability to provide experience to different kind of users in different messengers. So my last, I think, small demo is about Microsoft Bot Framework Composer. It's the tool that was announced I think 1 year ago, something like this. It was in preview, so now it has a global availability, and after the so we have some recent announcement about the improvement of this tool, and this environment and this tool allows you to build your chatbot logic in something like UI, with the UI interface. So here is the example of how it could be done. So here you have several activities, for example, greeting, which is launched when you open the chatbot, and this is something that will be executed when user add this chatbot. And then you can add new trigger, which is, for example, message received. So once I send any message to the chatbot, I could do something with my chatbot. I can set some property, I could set responses, I could I could execute the external HTTP request. So for example, here I can go to the to my service, which is language detection, because as I said, we need to identify what language user uses for the chatbot, and then we need to understand to what exact Q&A maker we need to go. So if it's a Ukrainian language, okay, we need to find our answer in this knowledge base. If not, we will go to another one. This is just a regular HTTP request, so you can visually add some values, some keys, some other information, but also you can use some predefined set of components. And yeah, here you can see connect with skill, send a HTTP request, some make a OAuth login, connect to Q&A knowledge base. So I can easily use this service, but what I need to do here is just to evaluate the answers. And it was not supported by this component, but still I can make a HTTP request, and that's it. So I can do any kind of branches. I can go, for example, okay, I can go to the another dialogues, and here you can see a couple of dialogues which could be very simple. For example, this is the dialogue which called the ask email, which is just a prompt for text, and I select the variable user email, which is something that was entered by the user. This is the ask name dialog. This is ask phone dialog. Confirm email and phone dialog. So it's a little bit complicated because okay, I could edit my information if I was wrong, so I could define it very quickly. And the last is a feedback dialog. So the bot framework composer, how it could work with LUIS language understanding Q&A maker. So as you can see, you can add the Q&A, connect to the Q&A knowledge base component. And also here you can see the message received and also the intent identified. So when our intent, we need to define what intents the chatbot would identify. We will provide these utterances, and once user will send a message, it will be the same intent we are needed, so it will be triggered by one of these dialogues. So when we create this chatbot, we can start bot, and it will be you can test it on the bot framework emulator. When you complete it with your chatbot, you can publish it as a regular Azure Web App or Azure Function. If you are using language understanding or you're using Q&A Maker, additional resources will be automatically created. So here you have two options. The first one, you started with the language model, Q&A Maker, and some other services, and just make a HTTP calls to all these external services. Or you can start with the bot framework composer, build your language model and Q&A data, and then bot framework composer will create resources on behalf of you. So for specifically this chatbot, we were able to decrease time for creating chatbot from, I don't know, 1 month. So we had the first version done by code, and we were able to decrease the time for building this chatbot to just 1 week. So that's a huge improvement, and I'm very glad that Bot Framework Composer is now part of Bot Framework ecosystem. So I think that's it. If you have some questions, I will be glad to answer.
Okay, if you have some questions, please type. I'm not a mind reader, so probably that's not the way that I'm gonna get those questions. But until more questions appear, I maybe want to comment on kind of this designer and how that looks, because we had some experience with kind of working with chatbots, and in my memory, it was kind of, when doing it by code, it's many sequential calls to the service and kind of putting the pipeline together yourself. It's a mess. And then if you then suddenly need to expand your conversations, it becomes even a larger mess. So kind of nice to see that now there's kind of this more visual option to manage that. I could
Yes.
imagine we could.
Yes, you are totally true, because previously, if you have a different models for language understanding, you need to use some dispatch service which define the best model, and only then query the intent and the entities. Also, this shutdown, it was something like, okay, it was rather good, but still it was not something that was populated to the attention to the users. So now Microsoft combined different tools. Now it's called BI/CI. If I recall correctly. So all these dispatch tools, all these shutdown and other tools, they are now a part of BF. CI, something like a tool, so you can use it. Also, of course, 1 hour is not enough to explain all the things. One more important thing is not language understanding, but language generating. And for example, if you would like to work with Composer, you definitely will use the LG files, which is something like a new format for defining your intents, defining your utterances, etc., etc. But as I said, now we have more than one approach how to make these chatbots. And if 5 years ago, it was a very straightforward, 3 years ago, five, I don't know. So when it was just start, it was very simple. It was just, okay, we send a message and we send a message and send message back, and that's all. And if we need to make some non-linear logic, it was quite complicated. So now we have a different type of approaches how we can do that. And for example, this chatbot that I showed you, it uses, it's from one side, it's very easy. It was a separate chatbot. It uses two knowledge bases for Ukrainian and Russian language. It uses the language understanding language. So what language you type it in. Then we use some custom trained model in Azure ML service, and some all these branches to, if you satisfied with your answer, if not, please rate your answer, etc. So when I saw this technical description and this flow, I was so surprised, because okay, it will took us, I don't know, two months to do that, but with Composer we just do this in 1 week, which is totally okay. And yeah, it's very cool service and cool instrument. So yeah, you can use it definitely.
Yeah, I think one of the kind of coolest experiments we had experience with was, well, we delivered the kind of text chatbot to the client, but then after that we went on to experiment with attaching phone service to that. So basically people would call the phone line. We had a kind of separate service responsible for taking the calls and forwarding them.
It's a new service. It's a new channel that was added recently. And yeah, so now you can call. And
that's now part of the Azure implementation.
It's a new channel of Azure Web App. So okay. It was added a few months ago, and it's working, I think, for US only right now. Mm-hmm. But yes, if you would like to build some voice chatbots, that's also a huge step forward.
Cool, because at that time it was kind of cobbled together solution with different vendor services. So, yes. So there was some kind of things to polish at that point, but I think that was kind of 2 years ago when we tried that. But yeah, it was interesting to see that even if we didn't kind of create separate intent trees for these conversations, it kind of still worked. But the lessons learned was that if you're treating people with through phone, you need to have separate intent trees, because those conversations are always different than what people type.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, I like the kind of newer trend where kind of chat, well, not even chatbots, it's just command line basically on the UI, where people can basically use very softly formatted power commands. Yeah. So please go and do that, like you showed in the example of booking. I can imagine a lot of applications you have kind of tedious tasks which are easier just to type the command, well, which is very familiar for us developers, but for business users, it's usually, well, how do you remember the command? But this language services allow you to, well, be more free with how you define the command itself. or how they type it. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a nice evening and see you.
Thank you very much. And as we don't see any additional questions currently, I think we could switch to our next speaker.
Yes,
Mitris.
hello. Let me just share my screen and then I'll be starting. So you should see my screen in a moment, and then we'll go ahead. Okay, good. I hope you can see the screen. My name is Mitris Chudikins. I'm a senior customer engineer at Microsoft, and today I'm planning to speak about Power Platform for developers. And yeah, basically we'll learn what it is and how you can use it, and how you can leverage, the apps and functionality that's available within the platform. So the agenda for today is what's Power Platform, what's in it for me, so what's in it for you, and I will show you the live demo how we can use Power Platform and create a simple app just within the session. So basically everything starts with data. The data we have, like we are collecting the data in our CRM system, in our financial system, and the data comes from many different sources. It can be on-premise, online, or wherever you want. And usually a business comes with an ask, hey, we want to analyze this data. We want to understand it, and finally we want to make or find insights in it. Okay, you're like, sure, here you go. And next, when business gets the data, they move to acting, making decisions and selling more, or stopping selling the product and automating some activities in parallel on the side. When they do it, the process starts again. The data gets changed. They get to ask you again, can you provide it us in a better format so we can again analyze it, act and automate. And this is where Microsoft came with a Power Platform, and to address all this, 4 blocks. And Microsoft decided, to build a low-code, no-code platform, to make it easy. Same as Alexander's been showing, during his bot session, with a designer and drag and drops. So basically, Microsoft has the following 4 elements. It's connector and access to common data. So connectors, we'll discuss them again in details a bit later, but basically Microsoft has developed, a package or, a component that allows you to connect pretty much to any system available out there that has or even doesn't have an API. So basically the connectors portion consists of 220 plus connectors to any system you can imagine. And then we have a connector, so we connect to those systems, and then it's very easy, to get this data to Power BI. And imagine you have your CRM system from one provider, your finance system from another provider, and you want to, get together, connect these data points. So Power BI allows you to read the data, build a data model, connect the data points, and then start building visuals, to help business analyzing it. So once you're done building visuals, you share it with your colleagues, you collaborate together on the data, and you come back with the insights. And Power Apps is the tool that helps you to act on those, to act on the data you've identified. And Power Automate is a workflow engine that lets you to automate some of the activities behind the scenes. So this is like a bigger picture how the platform looks. So we have, again, Power BI. It's a business analytics tool that allows you, as I mentioned, to connect to the data, create a data model, even though the data resides in different data sources. So for example, one is in SAP, the other one is in Salesforce or Dynamics, and marketing data is in MailChimp or HubSpot. So you can just connect to 3 different data sources, build them into a data model, create visuals, share it with your team, and collaborate on it. Once this is done, you want to also let your business, to work with the data and make changes to it. And for this, the Power Apps, the Power Platform has Power Apps, and it's called Application Development, Platform. To me, it reminds like going back 15 years ago in times when we had front page and Dreamweaver. For those who've been developing like for 20 years, it was a tool, that allowed you to build websites. Just with a designer, you would download like software, build your website, click publish, and host it somewhere. So this is basically Power Apps, but for mobile apps and tablets. It allows you, to drag and drop different controls on the screen, whether it's a mobile screen or tablet, and connect to the same data points that Power BI had access to and present it to your user. When presenting, you can give, way for your user, to also control the data, make changes, modify or create. So basically, think about Power Apps as a tool to easily develop mobile application to optimize your daily routine. To support, the development of apps, we need, to execute some logic, and that's where the Power Automate comes in. So again, imagine that you had to code something in C#, the same as with chatbots or any other, project you've been developing. And now you can try not to code it, but again, use a designer, and drag and drop components to build the process. So normally developers would think, okay, someone's trying to replace the things I usually do, but basically Power Automate is, working together with developers to simplify their life. And again, by leveraging those 220 connectors, to integrate the systems together, apply some transformations and run them in parallel. On top of that, Power Platform has Power Virtual Agents. That's a very simplified version of what Alexander's been speaking about when talking about bot framework and chatbots. So Power Platform has virtual agents available within the platform to allow users, like normal, business users, try building chatbots and then connecting them to their e-commerce store, to Facebook, WhatsApp, or wherever. They would, import it again from the knowledge base as Alexander shown, or they would type the questions answers themselves and just publish it. If they would like to go for something more complicated, then the bot framework would come into play. But this is just a super simplified version. On the side, I just wanted to add that if you decide ever to use Power Virtual Agents, you can actually host those bots you develop with bot framework within the Power Platform, within the Power Virtual Agent. And I would say these are the four main components of the Power Platform, which are supported by three additional, I would call them side components. So Microsoft Dataverse, that's Microsoft data platform for storing business data in a compliant, like in GDPR compliant and secure way. So Microsoft Dataverse is like a database which is exposed over APIs, REST APIs, and even SQL access for reading. That allows you, to push business data, according to your data model, retrieve it, but same time applying all necessary business rules, business validations, and checks. And on top of that, it has this very advanced security models that you can limit user access, to a single record, to records that his team has access to, etc. So most of the customers that are using or developing CRM system within Microsoft ecosystem, they're using Microsoft Dataverse as the base, and additional application modules that come on top, for sales and customer service. I've already mentioned the data connectors portion, and we'll discuss it on the next slide. So Microsoft has developed over 220 different data connectors to connect pretty much any system you can imagine, starting from standard ones like Excel, documents on OneDrive, SAP, Salesforce, MailChimp, whatever you imagine, and regular HTTP requests to get the necessary data if the API is not well documented or it's not that popular. And on top of that, Power Platform also has AI Builder. That's even more simplified version of what Alexander's been talking about. It's AI functionality available in Power Platform, primarily to get integrated with your Power Apps and Power Automate to, let's say, do a classification of objects. So you upload like just a few examples, and the AI tries to learn, whether it's a cat or dog, or it's, like one of your products or another. It has the form recognizer functionality, is the one Alexander has been showing about, So for example, you can have a Power App, a mobile app, where you scan the invoice from your customer, and it recognizes form, you push the data, to your system. And, a few other AI tools. Basically, that's the platform itself. And now I will get to each model individually. And when I'm done talking about the models, I will move to demo. So yeah. So first I will continue with data connectors. Slide doesn't have text. I just wanted to show you, how many different icons it has. So you can, when connecting with Power Apps or Power BI or Power Automate, it can be whether like Excel, OneDrive for Business, it can be Pipedrive as a CRM system, it can be LinkedIn, you imagine whatever you want, and it should be there. If not, then you can use like a regular HTTP request, and whether it's GET, POST, or whatsoever. So once you read the data, then it's time to start working with it. If you remember on one of my first slides, I've shown you the pipeline, that we have the data, then we go to Power BI, then Power Apps, and Power Automate. So let's try going the same way. We have the data in one of the system, and then we move to Power BI. First, I'll just show you the screenshot, what you can expect getting with Power BI, and then discuss, how things are actually put together and who would really use Power BI and whether it's a tool for you. So basically, the final goal of Power BI is provide you nice and clean visuals to make your analysis on. And Power BI is available, in two versions, running on your in three actually versions, just running a standalone, application on your machine, within a Power BI desktop, or being deployed to a cloud, or being deployed to on-premise if you are still just planning to go, online and then have your SQL servers on-premise. And it allows you, to connect to those data points, get the data in multiple different ways, like importing data, for analysis, reading it live, from if it would be a SQL database, or supporting a stream, incoming stream of data if it's an IoT, and you're doing a monitoring of your hundreds of your devices. So, and then, once you know what's your data, you start and have the data model to connect it, you start building visuals. Power BI is so nice that by clicking on any of the visuals, the other components are immediately filtered. I believe the same functionality is also available from our competitors like Click and Tableau, but it does have a chance to connect to the same models that you've been building, in cognitive services to implement AI. If you want to have more visuals, you can write them with TypeScript and D3 framework. If you want to have your own custom machine learning on top of the data, but without leveraging the machine learning and cognitive services, you can use the R or Python, to write your code, and then get the data to the shape you want. Before getting the data, and seeing it on this visual, you go through the transformation phase, which allows you, to do this data modeling and data cleansing to fit your actual needs. So how does it really work again in real life? We have hundreds of data connectors, as we've seen on the other screen. So whether it's your cloud application like Salesforce or Dynamics or you name it, then you might have a database which can be SQL, MySQL, PostgreSQL. Well, also doesn't really matter, and any other APIs that's available like from Google Analytics, or you pick it. You decide where your data is stored, and then you connect with Power BI Desktop, which is a free tool, and everyone can download it from the website. Basically, you connect and you start developing your dashboards, you're building your model and creating your visuals. When your visuals are ready, if you're not the only one user of your dashboard, you will proceed with publishing it to a Power BI service, which is available online, or Power BI service provided by your reporting service on-premise. We'll be talking about the online part. So once you publish it to online, you will need to configure, the data refresh frequency, if this is an import type of a data set, like every hour or every day, and then grant access to your team and make it available from mobile and desktop. So the Power BI dashboard, the one you're seeing on the screen, will adapt to your mobile device, so it won't be like a person will need to scroll horizontally to see something. So basically, who are the users of Power BI dashboards? If we think about the development, and why would you really need to use it? Normally, it's business is the consumer, so it can be a sales department which needs to forecast sales, understand where the customer resides, like find them on a map, travel, and sell the product. It can be like customer service, which is trying to understand what is the source for issues, where the customer is coming from. It can be again IoT kind of deployment where you monitor your hundreds of devices and try to identify, where the temperature changes. It's and we see it as business consumers, but personally, I'm using Power BI a lot just for my own needs when working within like Microsoft. And the reason is, as simple, I had a call with first level support guy, from a customer last week, and he was like, Mitris, we have this Zabbix dashboards that are reporting how our infrastructure is doing on premise. But, I'm receiving this request that, like individual requests to our systems are super slow. And how can I identify what's actually is the reason, and how can I track this request from hitting, my front-end machine to getting, through my, CRM system and then hitting the database or doing some .NET logic. And basically connecting to their log storage, which was, partially in the files and, in SQL, extracting it to a Power BI, for a specific time interval, joining all those data points like IIS logs, application logs, and other logs in the database together with, request ID, and making visuals for him, to filter it and see the data flow really helps him to analyze and identify where is the bottleneck. So I would say I'm using it a lot, to present the data myself to the customers, even if it's for one time. It's much easier, for me than, doing something in in the code, since writing code, takes a bit more time. And here, just connect the data sources, put them all together, and done. I can just send the document or Power BI to the customer. If it was an import type of data set, it's already within that report, and you can just forget about it when you send it. And customer can do the analysis and slicing on his own. That's the Power BI. In my demo, I won't be showing it, but if we have too much time, I can just show you as an example. Then we go with a preview or a screenshot of a Power App Studio, and we'll touch it today during the demo. So Power App Studio, it's the web tool that we used, to develop Power Apps. The way it works, and as you can see it on the screen, we can see in front of us, designs that simulates, a mobile app, a mobile screen. And the way you develop your apps, if you see in the top left corner, we have a new screen button. So whenever you start the Power App, and we'll see it again on the next screen how the process flows, but you basically start with 3 screens, which is detail or like detail, browse, and edit, with 3 screens which allow you to list the data from your catalog, whatever it is, like SQL Server or Excel files or whatsoever, and then get into a single record and modify it. So basically, if you need more screens, you want to have some more complex process, like a business process, you can create as many screens as you want and connect them all together. But how does Power Apps work? And it really reminds me Excel, compared, to regular software development patterns. So if in Excel, we change one cell, all dependent cells are changed automatically based on, your behavior, based on your change. So if you enter like that your salary is 1,000 euros, then the text is automatically calculated accordingly. You don't need to run any additional, activities. In Power Apps, it works the same. There is no clear triggers. What happens, on when you, execute a specific event, when you update, a field or, in a form. The moment the change happens, the connected elements are getting, I will call it refreshed or updated automatically. So for example, in this case, we are saying that, we have two trolleys and one of them is select, like the first one. But the gallery down here, which lists, I believe some components that are necessary for the trolley, is updated dynamically as written in the formula. So we say filter from product items or product ID, the one we've just selected from the gallery. If I would click on a different, trolley in the list, this formula would get, re-executed automatically without me, needing, to execute some kind of refresh, update, or doing any additional steps. So everything you see is dynamic to what data you have, or what data you enter, or what actions you do. It could be that once you click on a different element, you have a rule to change the background color of an element. For example, if the type of a selected record is different, you don't set explicitly a trigger; it just runs automatically. But getting back to the studio is fairly simple. It consists of the top menu where you pretty much pick elements you want to put on a screen, and you can do some kind of transformation. And then we have in the left sidebar, we have the list of our screens with the components that are available on the screen. And on the right side, we have the properties window, and configuration. So when developing the Power App, you will get your screens. Some of them will be generated automatically. You will adjust them, style them, and you're pretty much well to go. The idea of having Power Apps is to develop small applications that really increase your productivity in one specific area. The idea is not that you create 25,000 screens, to replicate, I don't know, the complete CRM system, but just focus on something small. In this case, this app might be used by a field technician that goes to a customer, identifies that they're like tall, that he has a specific trolley and is missing this, components inside. He just selects it, adds that they need to restock it, clicks OK, done. He doesn't need to do more. That's his job, for example. Same can be, with some other technicians, that visit, and fix ATMs outside. Someone, broke an ATM. An engineer comes, makes a photo, to confirm that he was on site for the ATM, makes some, check marks and checkboxes in the app. Clicks OK, that he did his job. So he doesn't really need to fill in the paper and then, someone rewrite everything from the paper back to, digital format. So how does it work? Again, you start with your data. Your data can reside anywhere you want. It can be, SQL database. It can be whatever database, you pick it. And you say, I want to take that specific, like once you set up a connection, you say, I want to pick that specific table or those multiple tables, and I will work with them. Once you've picked the data source, Power Apps will try to build forms according to your data automatically, suggesting you what should be the fields you should be seeing, whether it's an image or no, etc. And that's what we'll see also today. And once you're done, you can publish your version, or you can still keep, it in development. And once you're done developing, you make it available to your end users using the web or mobile access. The idea how it works, you download one Power App from App Store or Flow app or Power Automate app, and then all apps you create within your organizations will be available there. So there's no need for you to go to App Store and download every new app or every new update. Microsoft has an agreement, with Google Play Market and the iOS Store, that the apps you develop within an organization are available within a single app. Moving next to our Power Automate and our workflow automation engine. And this is where you implement some your business logic, and this is where you implement code without logic without writing a code. Imagine that you have a system where users can create data, and you want to integrate the system with some kind of another legacy system that you still have in place. I will show you an example of the Microsoft app later. So basically, someone creates the record in your system, and Power App has a trigger, to monitor when the record is created. It has a trigger, on creates of records, on updates, deletes, on some other activities depending on your API. But in this case, it can trigger on creation of a record. Then the next activity is that we want to run a Power Automate desktop. This is part of the Power Platform, RPA, which I'm not covering, so robotic process automation. to open Microsoft Access and write the data that we've created in our normal system back to this legacy Microsoft Access database. And then if the condition is fulfilled, we are sending an email using Exchange or Outlook, or if not, then we are reporting to a Teams channel, like warning, there's things went wrong. And now if we think about this super simple, Power Automate flow, which consists of 4 steps, we also see that it's connecting to 4 different systems. Reading that data which has been created in System A, pushing it to Microsoft Access, and then sending an email using Exchange or posting it to Teams. To create this setup we see on the screen, it will take you 10 minutes, and another 5 to test it. Writing this in the code will take you, I would say, a week or 2 with testing and then bug fixing. So this is where the simplicity comes with this all integrations are exposed, and you will see how easy it is, to leverage additional services in the middle. If you need to score those accounts, do some additional transformation, it's all can come in, into play in the Power Automate. Just wanted to add that Power Automate is built on top of Azure Logic Apps. So if for some reason, and I'll describe the reasons maybe later, you decide not to use Power Automate, the Azure Logic Apps give you the same opportunities. So still again a bit Power Automate and the workflow automation. So first of all, as I mentioned, it has multiple triggers. It can trigger on create, update, whatsoever. Imagine you have a marketing list in MailChimp and the new subscriber has been added. It will trigger the process. So then you can have parallel execution. One of the same Power App can run in parallel. One of the same Power App can have parallel executions within it. So you can scale your activities, and execute them simultaneously. Then you can create and update data in different data sources. So you can make HTTP requests to APIs. You can send emails via Exchange, Gmail, or read data from SQL. So the connectors give you this flexibility. And then additional, functionality that's available is approval management. And so whenever an event is happening, you can request a person to approve it before it goes next. For example, imagine the use case that you have an e-commerce store, sorry, where someone made a purchase. And you can have 2 parallel tracks or streams happening. First would be, you read the data of, your of person who made the purchase, and you put up an email saying, hey, thanks for your purchase, and this is your invoice, for example. And then you update the trigger in the database. On the other side, in parallel, for the same purchase, you can create a list of products that the guy purchased, and ask your salesperson verifies that it's still in stock. Let's say it's a legacy case. And once the salesperson approves that, yes, it's in stock, you send it to a delivery, or dispatch it to DPD or whatsoever. And again, you update the flag in the database. Really, it would again take, let's say a day, to develop the complete process compared to writing 100 lines of code, testing them, writing unit tests, etc. But what I've discussed now is the thing with Power Apps and with Flow, that you develop something in a web editor, and first, how do you test it? How do you keep track of your versions? How do you really manage this? So both Power Apps and Flows and everything developed within Power Platform is packaged into solutions. And these are the solutions you can distribute across environments. So normally there is a development, test, production in a minimum setup, and you might have even more. So if you are a developer, you will follow the normal process. If you're a citizen developer, like I don't know, just a salesperson, you might just develop something within, for yourself without distributing it to others. But if you're developing for enterprises, you can follow the normal deployment process. On top of that, both Power Apps and Flows can be exported using Azure DevOps and GitHub Actions, from Power Platform to your Git, and they can be extracted to be in a form of JSONs or XMLs, depending on the setup. So you can keep a complete track of changes. Then you can again build them back together and deploy it to another environment. Because both Power Apps and Canvas apps. Oh, sorry, my camera is lagging a bit. I will just fix it in a moment. So basically, because both Power Apps and flows have multiple files when being extracted, from the platform, you can really clearly see what were the recent changes. So it doesn't really change for you as a developer in terms of what you did, what was the actual change, and again, you can collaborate with your colleagues together on it. And yeah, you can have this continuous, integration and continuous deployment, frameworks in place, for deploying the solutions, which is cool. And it's becoming now fairly popular among our customers, deploying, like setting up, ALM, within their Power Platform developments. And there's both Microsoft solutions, for Azure DevOps and GitHub, and third parties. So you can pick whatever you like. Yeah, so this was, a story about Power Apps. I won't be talking about virtual agents since Alexander has been talking about agents. I've talked about the data connectors, and we'll see them in action in a moment. But what I wanted to say is, sometimes you might ask, like, when would I use Power Apps and when would I use flows? And again, what's there for me? So personally, if like you're a backend developer or a database developer and you're creating something, backend, and you want to expose it or make a proof of concept and demonstrate something to your business, you can just simply go to the Power App, create, the design by drag and dropping components. Maybe do not care that much about the final design, but shows, the idea and how it can work. Then, Power Apps come in really handy since it's easy and it just works. On the other side, if you're a front-end developer and you don't know that much about backend, but you want to get connected to all these different systems and you want to have a single, let's call it entry point to the data elements, then you can create yourself a Power Automate, get it exposed via HTTP. Again, you will use a drag and drop designer if you understand, how things are structured. You can output yourself a JSON response and use it in your React, Angular, or whatever apps. And if you're just a business analyst that wants, to prove things work, you can develop the Power BI. You can develop the same Power App that's connected to the data with Power BI and demonstrate it to your business. I believe there's, space to utilize it for different, roles, and also for IT administrators. There is, if your organization starts using Power Platform, there is lots, from the governance perspective, which connectors you want to allow, which you don't want to allow, what data should flow from one side to another, and you can have work also around Power Platform on what you will actually be doing. So I would say don't be afraid. Yes, any questions so far? No.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to contribute here because we actually did an experiment to kind of creating the same UI using kind of just front-end development using Vue.js and developing once again the same front-end app using Power Apps. And kind of in our limited use case, the experience was that Power Apps took half the time to develop that front-end. Yep. Of course, there are caveats that, it's designed to be for kind of used in mobile devices or tablets, or kind of on larger screens, not quite the same experience, but kind of for the sheer kind of quickness to deliver something out to get,
the first feedback, to collect the feedback, to understand whether it works or not,
or just to publish it for users, to just enter data, because data entry doesn't really change that much. It's always fields to fill in.
And that's what I will show in my demo, that in the data entry is one of the first use cases. But again, from the idea perspective, I'm planning to share how we are using it internally at Microsoft. And for me, I really seen the change, since when I joined, we didn't have any of this at that point. So basically, the first thing we are using at Microsoft is app called Kudos and Appreciation. Like at Microsoft, we tend to help each and everyone, whenever we are asked. And the idea is that after someone helped you, we have a Power App where you can, send thank you, and the manager will also see that, you did help someone, and when discussing, your next bonus, this sometimes helps. On top of it, when I joined, we had a super old vacation management, website. It was written, I believe, in 2000, haven't been updated for 20 years. I've worked only using VPN, and it was a suicide since you should have been connected, to like normal network, then you should have access to VPN, and you should have used like Internet Explorer up to version 10. That's how bad things can be. And with the switch to a Power App, they basically kept the same backend, the same database, but they just gave us, a really nice and tidy design, which you can use on the go, when traveling. Like before COVID, I've been traveling 70% of my time, and connecting in the airport, or whatever, was a suicide. Or reporting my hours. I do report my every hour I work. End of the day, I would again have to connect to that legacy system, report it, and sometimes it didn't work. Now I do it from the Power App, it's just dedicated to one specific activity, whole vacation, or hours, or anything like that. Same for payslips. The system we have for payslips, I never, it's managed by another company. I never remember my logins, but I can use the Power App to see, what's my salary for the last month. So you can use it to really automate the small legacy, tools you had, by bringing a new front end, without putting way too much effort into, developing it. And then that, you don't really need to follow up. Okay, Angular changed like from one version to another. Should we rewrite it or no? You basically use the components and formulas. Formulas might change, but again, as a notice is like a year ahead, and how complex your apps, you're building, maybe you can dedicate like a few hours, to fix them. So basically, that's the case. I'm seeing, that there is sometimes, like a difficulty to understand whether the Power App would fit. I've seen different companies. I could also put some more screenshots. Airlines are using it, to in the business lounge, to identify, like scan the cars, identify their members, and provide the necessary services. We have apps, to work on, for field technicians, scanning, having barcodes stick to different machines, coming, scanning those barcodes, identifying what's the machine when it needs a service, things, everything that's on the go, where you might need, have access to data, and you want to avoid paperwork. That's where it definitely comes to play. But at the same time, it can help you, to develop, utilities or tools around, and yeah, and then optimize your daily routine. So, anything to add, Yanis? No. Okay. So basically, what do we plan to do now, and what's my demo? My demo came from a bit other perspective. I can't really show you the actual data. That's why I wanted to develop the demo, but I will simulate it on a different data set. My son is super allergic, like, to different products, milk, eggs, and all the rest. And whenever shopping online, like shopping groceries online, it's important for me to read what's in it. And I found that some of our e-commerce stores, don't even have a description for some specific products. Yeah, the product catalog is huge. You should have a description for most of them, but it tends to be that for some new products, it's not there, or it's missing. And I thought, like, why can't we develop a solution where business will see, okay, this is a list of products, for example, where we don't have a description. And why don't we ask a person working in our store, if it's a grocery store or in wherever, get to the product, scan the barcode, for example, find it in the catalog, make the necessary change, even maybe by scanning the change, reading the, understanding the text that's written on the package, and then just putting it back to the database. Super simple, and then everyone is happy and allergic too. So what I decided to do with this demo is the following. Let me first go to my just a moment. I will see if I can connect to everything I need to demonstrate you my my setup. So while my SQL Server is running, loading, let me put it. Okay, my I won't be able to show my SQL Server since my IP is dynamic, but I will be able to start from a Power App. So basically, the story is the following. When working with Power Apps, most of people and most of our users are asking the following: hey, why do you have so many different portals, when working with Power Apps? So when you start working as a Power App, it really depends what's your role in the company. If you are an IT administrator or a person that's doing governance and managing, the environment, then there is an admin portal for you, and it lists you all environments, we'll learn about the environments a bit later, but it lists you everything that users are developing, users are managing, and help you to control what they're doing. And if you're someone who is developing, we call you maker. And as a maker, you have a portal called make.powerapps.com. Let's go here. And when it loads, it basically loads with the welcome page, which helps you to start from your data. As I mentioned, you start from the data. Before we start, I just want to quickly go over the menu and describe you what's in there and how does it is structured. All the components we've discussed, previously. That's applications, so Power Apps, the data, that's in Microsoft Dataverse, your flows, chatbots, AI Builder are all, available in makepowerapps.com. So if you want to start with chatbots, you go create and do one. We'll be doing Power App, and in my data, I actually have a connection, to cognitive services, Power Apps, Azure SQL Database, and Teams. So basically, in this setup, we will be connecting to a SQL database that has a product catalog and details on every product that we have in our store. And we will be, working with that catalog and then enhancing the data using computer vision API. Alexander's been talking about, to do OCR, let's read the text and, put it in our app. So I'm going back to home. I already have two apps ready, so well prepared, but we'll start from scratch. So when I press, I want to start with a SQL Server, what will be the next step? Power App will just ask me, do you already have a connection that you want to use, or you want to create a new one? In this case, I have taken data, from Amazon, publicly available data from Amazon, from like a few years old, and it had, three tables. That was products, so a list of books Amazon was selling online those days, ratings, so user rating and users who've been rating. But as I mentioned, imagine that we are working with product catalog and we want to improve, the actual content of our goal is, to have descriptions for every book. So I click on product and click connect. That's fairly simple. And now the Power App is doing that magic, which I told you, trying to create different set of forms that might be necessary, to help you. So skip. So what have happened? Again, let me zoom it in a bit. Sorry if the font was small. We have three screens. Which Power App create. Like, first of all, we have a data sort, which is our product table, and we can add more data if necessary. And then we have three different screens. That's browse screen, detail screen, and edit screen. Let's see what Power App created out of the box, and then try to see how we can customize it. Yeah, I press play button, and this is how it would look on the mobile phone if you would have this big screen. Normally, it adjusts, to your screen accordingly. So it has the product table name, it has some search functionality, it has refresh, sorting, adding new records, and some kind of listing of our books. I haven't done anything, it tried to automatically understand what it should put in. So if I'm going to this book number whatsoever, it shows me again category, code, distributor name, image, name, and producer name. Since it was coming from a complete catalog. Well, okay, let's see what's the two buttons here, delete and edit. We can click edit. It makes, it lets us, to edit everything down here. So we can, change the code or change, the company, that's producing it. But as I mentioned, our goal is not to change the complete set of fields available down here. Our goal is, to change the description. So those people who are really who really care about what's inside, can learn it. And we don't even have a description field down here. So I'm closing it and getting back to my browse screen. So let's see the first thing. How can I edit components? It's identical to actually. If I want to rename something, I just click on it, and that's the text that the Power Apps generated. And we can call it catalog or product catalog. Let's call it product catalog. No, oh, no, shouldn't have pressed enter. Good. So let's see what the refresh button is doing. So when you click on a button or you can click on a component, it has the formula, but something associated with a property. So you can dynamically modify any of the properties available in a Power App. You can also manually adjust them, from the right sidebar or from the advanced properties. But I usually use the formula bar. And we have on select. So whenever you click on select and click, it will refresh the data from the database. So the way Power Apps does, it refreshes only the data that you see on your screen. It doesn't touches anything else. So the engine behind this tries to be smart and not to query unnecessary data. So my product catalog has over than 300,000 books, and it just lists 5. If I continue, if I try to, okay, I cannot scroll. If I try to scroll, we will see that it's trying to preload. So there is a pagination built in automatically, to only query the necessary data. So if your data source supports it, like databases or OData version 4 with pagination, then it does work well. Let me just scroll back to the beginning. So basically, we've renamed it to the product catalog. The refresh button is here. The filtering. Filtering just says whether we sorted descending or ascending. Yeah, we just sort it. And there is a plus button, which does super simple activity. It navigates to edit form 1, and it creates a new form, edit form 1, and it navigates us to edit screen 1. So edit screen 1 has a new form, so it just resets the components, to be ready for a new record creation. But we'll get to it. Then there is the search items element, which allows you to enter text. And there's nothing special about it. You just enter text. And then the important component is the gallery itself. The gallery, has multiple subcomponents underneath. And the interesting portion is how do we get the data that we need based on, text entered in a search, the ordering, and other portion. So what it does, it executes the search formula down here, which is, I would say, the syntax is super similar to the Excel one, where it says we are taking data from product, and this is the text we have entered, even if we haven't entered anything. And this is where I want you to search it in this field. Basically, we don't really want to search anything in category. It doesn't make sense. So I believe we can search in name and code. Coming from development background, since the description is and text, I doubt that searching for anything in and text field, in SQL is a good idea, since most probably it will be executed in like manner. So deleting it. What's next? After it executed the search, it's sorting it by category. Again, we don't really want to sort it by category. We will sort it by code, and that basically it. That's done. Again, next, what we want to do with this, first page or first form we are seeing down here, and the following. The content we are seeing, in this list doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any. And I want to see the picture of a product or a book. So Power Apps allows you, to edit how you want your controls to render, and it also comes with some recommendations. And for example, you want to list it in image, title, subtitle, and some kind of body. So you click on it, and then it's refreshed. Now we need to configure the elements, each and every element, like you are seeing here, and you would have in your seeing here, if we would have them in HTML. So basically, it's a sample image, something standard that Power Apps have, but we write this item dot image 3. I know that the like images, like well, image 1 is small thumbnails, image 2 is bigger one, and image 3 is like a large image. And since I'm working on a bigger screen, it's better to have a bigger image. So we've updated the image, and it was fairly easy. The URL is there. It can also be base64 and code it. Completely up to you how you store it. Then, normally the first field, you don't really want to be a category. Since we are only working with books, we don't really need category at all. So I would write, name. I believe I have name. Good. And then we have ISBN. I believe we can just do it like ISBN. I believe it was. And let's do it like that. So we wrote a text, to show the ISBN, and we can show maybe not it's producer, let's call it. So what we have developed now, we've quickly adjusted our product catalog, to fit our needs. So this is already more than enough for a person, to understand the product. And now if I search for, I don't know, programming, it should actually find me something, introduction to function. And it looks nice, and you can already show something like that to the business. Though I don't like this blue background, and I'll show you my redesigned version later. So basically, this was the first screen. Now we need to, what happens next? Whenever you click on, on the arrow, it opens the detail screen. And then we are moving on to editing the detail screen. So let's move to detail screen and detail form. And there it is. The way Power Apps work here is the following. It automatically connected the data source to the products table. You could pick others if you would have, and it has automatically placed some of the fields on a form that you will be able to edit. First of all, it doesn't seem very smart that you just need to change the sort order of the fields. But for example, let's put up. Come on, up. Now I broke something with my browser. So we place name first. We have category, we have code, and I want to, I don't really need, I will keep images. I will show you an example. We don't know the distributor. Let's delete it. Let's remove this one. And let's add description. Done, 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 done. For each field, you can define how do you want it to look. So for example, description will be a rich text. Let's make it rich text. And what I don't like about now, since the space is not really used correctly, and we could, have a better structure. So just a sec. And the first, thing you could start with in Power Apps is to define how many columns you want to see, like structure your content. And we say 2 columns, but now the name doesn't fit well. So I will use the advanced properties to be able to change whatever Power Apps advise me automatically and make it, bigger. So good. We can keep code as this category also, but now I don't like how the image looks. So I don't really want it to be text, because it's an image. And I'm doing insert. I'm going to insert media image. It's saying that, I'm trying to insert image inside, an existing field. And I will just, I won't be pixel perfect this time, so I will just basically remove this image we have here. And I believe I can just write its parent default, but you will learn it when you start developing. And here we go. Here, there's my image. I can copy it, go back here, unlock and edit here, delete the image from here, put it down. I will still try to make it a bit more pixel perfect. Or it was good. Now I broke it. It's also parent default, but I don't know if you can see the difference in quality, but the quality is better. And where is my description field now? Let's put it B4, and let's make it also bigger. I can already make it bigger now. So, and I don't have any description. And let's say we don't need the image 3 anymore, just remove. So basically, what have happened? We have our list catalog, then we go to, the product, and we have some kind of name, bug code, and description is empty. So the person really needs to fix the product. So how do we do this? We go to the screen, which is called edit, because we want to edit the screen. And and we go to the edit screen. And we have an edit form, and this edit form has pretty much all fields available. And again, that's not something we need because our focus is only to change the description field. Imagine someone, typing data, from the different paper blanks, entering how much waste, the waste like collector has collected, whatsoever. And you only want like exact data that's important. We put name on top. We won't be changing. Okay, my Firefox is. Okay, my Firefox is so stupid today that it cannot handle my fast drag and drops. Let me save it. I better save things. Yeah, when saving, actually, it asks whether you want to save it on your computer or you want to save it in a cloud. Okay, now I will save it in a cloud. App 1. Saving it in a cloud. And since my Firefox is lagging now and I don't know the exact reason why it's happening, I will just show you my app that I've created and what it's doing. So I will go to edit of my app and present you how does it look next, or how does it look. Let me close the other window because it might complain that I'm editing it outside override. Yeah, so you can have multiple versions. You can edit them, and skip. So I've redesigned my version a bit. We'll get to the edit screen in a moment. But what I did, I've added my own photo. So you can see my photo is in the top right corner, and I have added my photo, like saying user image. So the one I have in my portal office, that's a demo tenant. That's not my. I have a name for the app, and I have two features. One is the search functionality and one is scanning. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show you the scanning functionality, but basically this is a barcode scanner. Imagine you are getting to a product, scanning the actual barcode to find the product. That's what it would be. It would open you the camera mode and tell you, okay, understood. In this case, as I don't have my phone connected to demonstrate to use the functionality, you just need to believe me that it works. So you can enter, the code of the product and then pick it. As you can see, have used a different gallery here. I've used, bigger images. Maybe it's easier for a person, to understand them from a search. Images, just used as a background image in this case, so they don't have, white backgrounds around. Some images are even missing or don't exist anymore. But what happens next? Next, I have my detail screen, which is something similar to what we've been developing now, where I have the name, I have some description, and photos, and I have an edit screen, which looks like that. Basically, what we want to achieve with the setup next, we want a person to open the product, get to scanning the barcode, and get the text down here in this window. So let's go to, and how does it work? Again, I will need to open my cameras. How does it work? When we open this product description, I've put a camera control. It's from insert and camera, and then I put a rich text editor underneath, that allows formatting. And whenever there is an event which is called on select, I'm collecting when person clicks on the actual stream, camera will make a picture and will update the context of this screen that we have a picture. And this picture will be sent to a cognitive services for analysis using Power Automate, and I will show it in a moment. So it makes the picture camera and stores it in camera image, and then it does update context by running flow, convert photo to text, and this is the image from this collection. I've added flow by clicking insert flows, and now we can we can send it to flow. Once the data is back, this screen here gets the description or result returned from flow. So basically, want to demonstrate you how this works now. We'll start from here. Let's say we pick an image, which is this one. we see I made the formula, which I'll show you also in a bit later, shows that there is no description, so it's not available. And we click on edit. I'm enabling the camera, and this is my camera. Now I'm switching to the following scenario. Let me just, let's say, let's start simple. Let's start with this image. Now the text is super clear, your camera was super good. I'm clicking on the photos, like I want to make a text recognition. Oh, there it is. It came in. I will show you the flow in a moment, how the data is being exchanged. But you have a picture, click, the data gets back. You make the necessary changes. You click OK. The data got here. It just so in this super simple case, we have a camera which makes a photo, sends it to a Power Automate flow, which we'll see in a moment. Then updating the text description in Power Automate, we save it, the data is pushed. So how much time it would take you to develop it in I don't know, React? I don't know, since I'm not a React developer, but I believe it would take some time. Going next, let's put a bit different image. We have this another product which doesn't have a description. We click next. I'm again allowing my camera and moving on to the book written by Satya. Hit refresh and let's see if it works. I might even let me just make it like that. So let's see. Clicking, waiting. Okay, it missed the hit button text, so I can edit myself. But we can also add some formatting. That's the formatting. Okay, okay, done. Hit refresh. We have the description. Okay, let's have another case. I have 3 cases in total. So another book doesn't have a description. We click edit. We get the camera on. And this is a forward from, again, the book written by Satya, and we click and make it and wait for it to read the text. So you can see that the size of text was different, in every scenario. Somewhere we had, lots of text, somewhere less. The font size was different, and this is the text, we've got from Satya, Satya's book, and we could make, formatting. Again, we could, I believe, make it, also in Power Automate. I believe the new line breaks, I should have configured the new line breaks, but basically this is, I'll put dot in the end. And we click apply, so done. And as you can see, as the Power App now has a scroll bar, so you as a person would actually have to scroll now, since the text doesn't fit the screen. So it's not cut, unless you really want to do it, but it's available, in a user-friendly format. And that's developed very in a super easy, I would say, way. It took me an hour to develop this app. You can make it too. Basically, you've seen the not available text that I was showing, for those scenarios where we didn't have a text or description. And then there is, a simple formula. If blank or error, so if the text doesn't exist, we write not available. Else we say parent.default. You can't have your own localizations. You will have to manage them on the start of an app or, in different manners. But you can, translate these apps too. And, as just in the end, let's do one more thing. I will copy the code. I haven't tested it myself, so deleted it. And the book doesn't exist anymore. So the deletion also works, and that's basically it. So now the secret part is, what does happen in the background, and so we've seen the Power Apps. Let me switch back to my real camera just a second. It's loading, so I'm coming back. So basically the scenario is the following. We've seen connectors. So in this case, we've connected to a SQL database to query the necessary data. We've seen the Power App, which generated us 3 different, screens to start. And we've redesigned them a bit I've redesigned them to make them a bit fancy, and, stylish, with rounded, borders, with camera and barcode. And the magic, which the workflow or activities that are being executed, like cognitive services, are behind the scenes. For this, I will navigate to manage your flows and show you first how just simply how flows can be created and what's in there, and then show you the actual flow we have. So I'm clicking start flow. We can create different flows. So automated cloud flow, instant cloud flow, schedule. So you can work on recurrence, it can work on a click of a button inside your app, or it can be triggered by something. Let's say instant by a button, and you want like manually trigger a flow, or you see when Power Virtual Agent calls a flow. So Power Virtual Agents, can escalate or get data from flows, or selected file in the OneDrive, Power whatsoever. Again, there's tons of connectors, or even webhooks. But we say we want just to start it with a click. And once you are in a flow designer, that someone clicked the button, you add the steps. And the steps can be any. So there is tons of different connectors. So you can be doing SAP ERP, calling functions from SAP, doing diagnostics. You can, I don't know, I've seen Alexander using Dropbox and not OneDrive. You can connect to Dropbox, and can upload files, create files, whatsoever. So you put those steps. If those steps are not it's not only about connecting to data sources. There are different controls like conditions, loops, setting up the scope. So imagine as writing the code, but really drag and dropping it. And now we'll navigate back to my flow that converts photo to text. It consists of 4 steps. It gets the data from a Power App, or it says, getting an input from a Power App in an asking Power Apps manner, and stores it in a var Power Apps variable, which is string, since the text is base 64. There is a trick that you need to convert base 64 image to a binary image, but it's well documented. And then you just send it to OCR, to Azure Cognitive Services, saying it's an image, that's the content of my image. And then you get a response back to Power App saying I want my variable be called text, and I want to pass the detected text from the previous step. Again, this flow took me like 5 minutes. It would take me longer, to learn Cognitive Services API and making it, and that's the beauty of Power Automate, or beauty of Azure Logic Apps. You don't really need to monitor the APIs, how they change, what's available or not. That's what Microsoft does, and you just develop your logic. Then it's returned, back to Power Out. So I've run it like several times in the past 3 days. You can open any execution that's been like in the past. I believe it keeps up to 1,000 executions, and you can see, okay, this is a schema that came from Power Apps. You can see even the raw inputs, which will show us an input, and then it shows the output, So in this case, again, it's not showing the inputs and outputs because the image was fairly big, considering the camera. But for example, optical character recognition receives an image. Again, it's click to download since it's big, and then there is text, and we see the text is, written on every line on its own line, compared to what we received in Power App when it was like one-liner. So the line breaks should have been managed by me in Power Apps, and then I'm returning the content back to Power. So basically you can monitor and see those green checkboxes when it's executed successfully. You see how long it took to complete the step, and you can download those logs if you're an administrator, using PowerShell. And you see, the owner, you see what access it has, it can be shared access, or it can be access that's granted to the user based on his credentials. And you can turn it off the analytics. And the Power gets when you connect all dots together and, build this nice looking Power Apps with Power Automate and then the rest. Yeah, I believe that's all from my side. Any questions so far? Or it's quiet today?
It's quite quiet, but it looks awesome. I especially like your comment about the time it took to kind of make this application. Well, the use case might be simple, but yeah. I think it's very common in terms of what businesses actually do a lot of manual things, yep. And kind of a lot of these kind of approval flows or automation flows. It reminds me very much of the processes we have internally in our own project. So
Yes.
I imagine that would be the place where I would start if I wanted to play around with this, take a process from my everyday life, which bothers me, and
Yes.
try to implement that.
Yes. That's how the business, like when delivering sessions on Power Apps to customers, I've seen those really small departments coming with their own Power Apps saying, this is our routine. Even though, the platform can be used by anyone, the goal is that those people try to use it themselves, the entry level, there is, an entry level, you need to understand, IT, and how objects are structured. But once you get to it, it's fairly easy to configure and benefit. Yeah, you might get into some troubles, updating wrong data or doing, something wrong, or maybe hitting some performance issues if you do everything completely wrong, but at least you're trying. And when you have your POC, developers or engineers can actually help you fixing it. And yes, the time you save really on connectors, it's incredible, and I believe this is where the big win lies, since it's so easy, and it is available in Power BI. It's the same, pretty much connectors are available there, and you have one of the same experience over and over, whenever you use these different solutions. So I think it's good. And I'm seeing more businesses, moving their integrations, maybe not directly to Power Automate, since, from the licensing perspective, it's still more licensed, for citizen developers, but for in a way like using Azure Logic Apps where you are charged differently, and the price-wise it will be the same most in average, but it allows you, to create integrations, and on like very easy. And then hearing, oh, we have like 10 integrations, doesn't make you cry, because in think that there's like a suicide and lots of code, and then no one knows how to support and manage the configs. They are like, even if they are not using configs for secure variables, it doesn't look that bad as it would be.
Yeah, maybe one more thing I wanted to clarify, maybe. So, but the Power Apps you create, they are basically accessible internally within the organization, right? So for external applications.
Yeah, you would need, there's no external access as this, you would, the challenges with licenses, the challenges in licensing, how Power Apps is licensed, and the basic setup we are seeing is that if you are having Office like 3 plan, or like E5, if you're richer company, then you can consume it within the company. For guest users, that's unfortunately not the case.
But in those cases, you can still have your kind of custom front end.
You can have Power Apps portals. Power Apps portals, which I haven't covered, it can expose some of it, and that's what customers are using again. If you want it to be hosted by Microsoft, yeah, with the Power Apps portal. But this is internally inside your organization. Flows are running in the background, and unless you are doing approvals, you don't really, like, no one is really affected. But yeah.
Okay.
But virtual agents are available and everyone can consume them. I had a session, showing how virtual agents can be connected to Facebook, in just like in an hour. So good. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I think if we have no more questions, I'll just proceed with kind of the final words.
Yeah, we can take over the screen maybe, so we can stop sharing.
Yeah, just a second. And thank you for kind of presentation. It was really interesting
welcome.
to see.
I was happy to be part of the community.
Okay. Should be up in a second. Yes. All right. So thank you everyone who joined. Thank you everyone who kept up until the very end. I know that some of you are busy, but the recording will, as usual, be available on YouTube in the coming days. The materials and presentations will be uploaded to GitHub repository as soon as I get them from our presenters. And yeah, I encourage everyone to join Fundamentals Virtual Training Days if you're interested in getting certified in Microsoft Azure. and join us on Discord. Come and talk about what you're building. Thank you everyone who joined.